When I first heard about the Model O, I immediately dismissed it as a low-effort Finalmouse clone. Over time, it became more and more hyped up, and once the overwhelmingly positive reviews started rolling in, it was impossible to ignore. I just had a hard time believing that such a new and small company could put out a compelling mouse on the first attempt. So at that point, I had to give the thing a try for myself to see if it was anything more than a ripoff of the Finalmouse I reviewed last year. Okay, so full disclosure, I've been using this mouse as my main for about a month and a half, and I got rid of the Finalmouse, so while I will be frequently comparing the two, I won't have any visuals. Also, I hope you can excuse my gameplay footage. There's just no fresh shooters for me at the moment, and that's probably not going to change until this fall. Going into this, I was extremely skeptical, but as you'll see, that skepticism faded away very quickly, and it started with the ordering experience. Unlike the Ultralight Phantom I reviewed, the Model O is not a limited drop. Anyone can go on the website and place an order for one right now. When I ordered mine, they were out of stock, but they gave me an ETA and met it. So that's already a huge advantage over Finalmouse. Complete transparency, no nonsense or cryptic tweets. The next preconception-shattering moment was seeing and feeling the box this thing comes in. It's substantial, it looks nice, it's near iPhone box territory, and that's not something I expect to see from any mouse, let alone a $50 one from a small company. Yes, it's just a box, it doesn't impact the quality or functionality of the mouse itself in any way, shape, or form, but it is generally indicative of the care that went into the product, and they actually put stuff onto the box that you'd want to know. All of the tech specs are on the back along with the dimensions. However, there's no escaping that this was made by Glorious PC Gaming Race. They've got the word Glorious printed on here about 1,000 times, their mascot is proudly displayed on the side, and when you open the box, you ascend. Personally, this kind of gamer-centric branding and marketing doesn't speak to me at all, and while we're on the subject, I have to say that Glorious PC Gaming Race wouldn't have been my first or even 100th name choice for a gaming peripheral company, but it's hard to complain too much when the presentation is so impressive. Fortunately, the mouse itself lives up to its packaging. From the moment I took it out of the box, it was clear to me that the materials and build quality were both top-notch. I opted for the matte black finish, and the entire outer shell is one uniform material. It doesn't have any kind of texture or grain to it. Instead, it feels smooth, almost soft to the touch, which makes it really nice to have in hand, and I never had any issues with gripping it. It's not as soft as the final grip coating on the Ultralight Phantom, but it's also not a coating, so there's kind of a trade-off there in terms of durability. Then there's the elephant in the room, that honeycomb design that's ripped straight from Finalmouse. The implementation here is essentially a carbon copy, with the holes being slightly smaller than what I remember on the Finalmouse. Just like the Finalmouse, I don't find them to be annoying in hand, and while dust can and will enter through them, that's easily remedied with a can of compressed air. Of course, the whole point of having these holes is to make the mouse lightweight, something that Glorious proudly advertises on the front of the box. 67 grams, at least for the matte models, which is the exact same weight that Finalmouse claimed for the Ultralight Phantom. All of the benefits that applied to the Ultralight apply to the Model O. It can be flicked with ease, you can get away with a lower sensitivity, and it should be less fatiguing than a heavier mouse. The cable has also taken, well, let's call it inspiration from Finalmouse's Phantom cable. It's more shoelace-like than Finalmouse's, but it gets the job done just as well. It's so light that you basically don't feel any cable while aiming. Both of these features were big pros for me on the Finalmouse, and they're big pros here too. What killed the Finalmouse for me was the size and shape. It was a little too big, and it had a hump that made it difficult to use with a fingertip grip. I'm happy to report that the Model O is the complete opposite. The size and shape make this mouse for me. Everyone's hand size and preference is going to vary, but I'm confident in saying that the Model O is as close to a true neutral as I've seen yet. In terms of size, the measurements put it somewhere between the Zoe FK2 and FK1, and the shape is similar to the FK series as well. It's low profile with no hump, which makes it suitable for fingertip grip. I have pretty average 18 by 9 centimeter hands, and fingertip grip is very comfortable, with palm grip being a perfect fit. Testing it side by side with the Zoe FK1, I prefer the feel of the Model O in hand. So when I say that this mouse has a neutral size and shape, What I mean is that I think it'll be a good fit for the vast majority of people. The shape doesn't force you into using a specific grip style, and unless you have extremely large or extremely small hands, the size is a nice middle ground as well. If you do have smaller hands, or, like me, have a preference for smaller mice, you're in luck. Glorious just announced that a smaller and lighter Model O is on the way, and I will definitely be covering that, but for most people, this version is going to be a safe choice. Moving on to the inputs, left and right click feel snappy and responsive. The scroll wheel is nice, it's on the lighter side, but the steps are defined. The DPI button is beneath the scroll wheel, which I'm generally not a fan of, but it's very small and I haven't had any accidental presses. The side buttons are of adequate size and have solid clicks. However, there is an issue where they can be activated through the side of the shell on some units, which mine has. I don't think it's a big deal since I didn't even notice it until I read about it and tried it for myself, but it is there if you press hard enough. Glorious are aware of the issue and claim to have reinforced the sidewall on newer batches in order to mitigate it. Moving on to the bottom, we see 4 white mouse feet, which glide smoothly, and the sensor, a 3360, which tracks flawlessly. Overall, the quality is great. I didn't notice any creaking, rattling, or rough edges. There's also RGB, which I'm torn on. On one hand, this mouse is supposed to be all about saving weight, so why include something that increases weight and adds no practical benefit? But at the same time, it's a really nice implementation. The lights are bright, well diffused, and interact with the holes in a cool way. The color and animation can be controlled through Glorious's surprisingly competent software. So, is this anything more than a great value Finalmouse? Well, at this point, it's probably pretty obvious that I like the mouse, and in regards to it being a ripoff, it most certainly is. The honeycomb and cable are blatantly taken from the Ultralight, but what they've done is taken that and paired it with a Zoe FK style shape, which, for me, makes it superior to the Finalmouse. The only thing that's great value about it is the price, $50. At that price, they're undercutting both Zoe and Finalmouse, and they're doing it with what I think is a higher quality product. It's an incredible value, maybe not G203 deal of the century, but it's close. I know that a lot of people are interested in this mouse, and if that's you, unless you have some extreme hand size or shape, I can't think of a single reason to not get it. There's only one thing I don't like, and I saved it for the end because it's not a deal breaker when everything else is so good, but I had to mention it, and it's those logos on the side of the mouse. The small Glorious text is tolerable, but that mascot on the left side, it's a big, ugly mark on what is otherwise a pretty slick-looking mouse. Again, not a deal breaker by any means, it's just cosmetic, but I wish it wasn't there. So that's everything. It's an excellent mouse, I love using it, and it's without a doubt the best I've reviewed yet. They're nailing it on all fronts: shape, weight, materials, build, price, and now with a smaller version on the way, choice of size too. Things are heating up in the mouse world right now. Finalmouse has their foam work of art on the way. It's currently being blessed in a 5-day ceremony. And Cooler Master has their own take on the honeycomb coming in September, but what Glorious have done here is very impressive, and I look forward to checking out the smaller version. If you have any questions, I'll try my best to answer them in the comments section below. If I'm able, I do plan on getting and reviewing the new Finalmouse, and my next video is going to be a keyboard review, so if you're interested in either of those, consider subscribing to the channel. Until next time, thanks for watching.